Well, let's get busy working on our 1964 Clark Clipper forklift. So if you watched the last video of going to get this thing, I found this on Marketplace, and if you made your guess on the last video, we're about to see if you were correct. If you did not make a guess on how much I paid for it, go ahead and make a guess now. You can pause the video because we're about to reveal how much I paid for this thing. Go ahead. I'm not going to continue until you put your guess down below. All right, made your guess. I paid $400 for this fine piece of equipment. He had it on Marketplace for $600. I looked at his Marketplace profile. He had a second listing, an older listing, where he had it listed for $700. And so I messaged him just to ask him about questions about it, what he knew was wrong with it, that kind of thing. And as he described the things that he knew was wrong, the thing that did stand out was felt like the mass cylinder, based on what he was saying, is going to have to be rebuilt, and that can get expensive depending on what parts we have to put into that. So yeah, I kind of paused on it, took a look on Marketplace, and just to see what other forklifts there were, and kept coming back to this one. You know, I looked at a couple others that were $1,000 in my area. About the cheapest alternative to this, there were a couple listed for $1,000, which you could probably get them to come off the price. They were newer, still pretty old, and they also were not in operating condition. You know, they hadn't run in a while, has some issues, no brakes, whatever. Insert whatever problem you want to in there. There's forklifts on Marketplace for you, depending on what problem you want to fix. So this one, he did say it ran. He told me exactly what he felt was wrong with it, or all the issues, and it was still cheaper than the other ones, and it's smaller. I didn't need a 4,000 pound capacity forklift. I just need something small because I want to keep it inside and I want it to sit outside, and so I don't need a massive forklift to take up room. So I came back to this one, and you know, just was frank with him, you know, because of I'm not sure what I'm going to get into there. How do you feel about 400? And he said I'll take it. He said, I'm getting tired of people offering me 300 to scrap it, and he's like, I don't want to see it scrapped. So I guess maybe people think the scrap value of this thing is 300, and I would never scrap it. So we've got a forklift for $400. So we're going to quickly, if you didn't watch the last video, you can view that one. I went over some of the known issues. We're going to highlight a few of those, but first I'm going to take off the little seat pan area here. It's not bolted on, it's just set on. So I'm going to take that off, and we'll get a better view of everything, and take a look at it real quick, and then we're going to dig in. So I will quickly try to cover this. What I got from him is that it'll idle, and he did start it up and it idled. It ran for a few seconds, then died. It was pouring down rain. That was good enough for me. It sounded good. Once I got it back here, the battery was weak. I was having to use, it didn't come with a battery. I was having to use the battery I used for my winch, which it had already been used to winch this thing up. So it was kind of low, and we didn't get much cranking out of it before it died. But we tried spraying some brake cleaner in it, and it would not fire. So it was either flooded or it lost spark. So we're going to need to investigate that. What he had told me is he had it running, but not good enough to actually try to move it. I asked him about brakes. He said he had no clue. He didn't feel like they were connected. He didn't know anything about forklift brakes. And he said the only thing he had tried to do is he tried to lift the mast up, and it quickly fell back down. And he said the previous owner had passed away, but he had left it up, and he said there's some pitting on the rod that's causing it to leak down fast. But like I covered in the last video, I don't think that that's the pitting on the rod is necessarily an issue, because on a forklift like this, the rod sealing side is just a low pressure side. Your high pressure lifting side is on the bottom side of the piston. So if this thing truly is leaking down, we've either got a hose that's leaking, you know, the pressure hose is blown out or something, or the packing on the piston has failed, or we've got pitting in the cylinder. Hopefully not pitting in the cylinder, but so we may end up having to rebuild. Hopefully it'd be great if it's just a hose, but worst case scenario, I'm hoping we just have to rebuild the packing on the cylinder. I hope the cylinder is not pitted. He said it was stored inside. When I got it, it was outside. He said he had moved it recently outside, but when he got it, it was inside. But curious how much inside it was, or covered. He said it was covered. If there was pitting on the cylinder, maybe it was covered. I don't know. But yeah, it's got no brakes. I mean, here's the master cylinder, and I did find what I think is that master cylinder. I've got it ordered. It's $25. I was also looking, and I do think I've found the wheel cylinders and brake shoes, but we're gonna try to see what we can get without doing that first. The brake line from this side is just laying here. It's broke off. So it is unthreaded there's a T-fitting right over there. And they've undone it from the wheel cylinder. So it looks like maybe it broke, and then they were trying to fix it. It's wedged in here. Come on. Well, if I would have known it'd been this difficult to try to get this thing out, I wouldn't have tried to get it out. Okay. It's bad. So I don't care if I bend it up or whatever. So this looks like it's either, I think it's just copper tubing. And that looks, there's a little single flare. Looks like copper tubing. I mean, it probably came with copper tubing for brakes. This is very low pressure. Well, I say that, but I mean, there's no booster or anything. So I did pick up, so we've ordered some parts. And so let's quickly go over that. We've got a roll of NICOP. Now I've got some galvanized steel brake line here that I could have used, but I went ahead and just got the NICOP because it's easier to bend. You know, we can just hand bend this stuff versus the galvanized. You know, I got to use my little bender. So trying to get in here and do some of this stuff, I think it would just be easier to run the NICOP. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they just ran copper tubing, but we'll run NICOP. And we got some brake fluid, and it is overfilled on oil, and it smells like diesel oil. I don't know if they put diesel oil in it, some used diesel oil maybe to fill it up, and overfilled it. But at some point we're going to have to do a brake, or I don't know how much we're going to get to today, but this is the stuff I've got so far, is stuff to do the brake lines. We may just do all of them. There's only 3, because we've got to somehow figure out where we can mount this thing. It's just kind of floating, which is probably why that one broke, maybe, is because it's just vibrated and the copper tubing just broke. So we will see where we can mount that thing and, you know, come over to the transmission or something and put a bolt in, you know, maybe right here or something. Take that bolt out, bolt through here, and run our lines. But the other thing we've got, we've got to do that. We need to do an oil change. I think that's the right filter, but I'm not positive. And we've got a better battery that I just bought, and I had on the maintainer all night long to get it all topped off. And we've got some hydraulic suction hose, and we've got some hydraulic fluid. This is just J20A. This is a little better lubricating properties than your typical just universal hydraulic fluid. This is more for tractors that have shared transmission and hydraulic fluid, and it's lubricating a little better for the transmission side of things versus a straight hydraulic fluid that's more for high pressure applications, excavators and stuff like that. So I wanted to run this. This typically I think would have just called for straight motor oil, but I was just kind of worried about the additives, and today's motor oil may not be the best thing for it. So I think that's a good alternative. Someone has put a 1-wire alternator on it, so I'm going to bet the charging system actually works. I don't like how they have this battery cable run. They've got the battery lead coming over here, then running to the starter solenoid. On my list of things to do is to take this lead and connect it over to here. So we're branching off from the starter solenoid over to here, and not from it's just a small lug. If this got loose and it got hot, it would burn through that pretty quick versus you got a bigger stud here. So that's on the list. The reason I got the hydraulic suction line is this flexi hose thing that they've got on here looks awful. So, and it's completely out of hydraulic fluid from what I can tell. So I'm going to guess that hose may be leaking. So before we waste fluid and dump fluid into it and find out that thing's leaking, I don't like the look of it. We're just going to replace it. And we've got the other thing he mentioned he knew was wrong with it. He said the tilt cylinder hydraulic hose is blown, which I'm not sure which one that is, but if you look, this one right here has been rubbing on that master cylinder and it looks awful. So I'm going to guess that hose, if it's not the one that's blown, is probably leaking. So we have at least one hose that needs to be done, and we've got one here that the insulation is just falling off of, and it's also been rubbing on the coil. It is a very short little one, and it is the feed from the pump. So we could have an issue on that hose, and yeah. So we've definitely got some work to do on the hydraulic side of things. I think first on our list, we need to try to get it running, but I don't want to run it with the hydraulic pump dry. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to replace this suction hose, and then we can put some hydraulic fluid in, and then we will try to get this thing started and see how the carburetor is. I picked up some various Zenith gaskets. I don't know if they have the right, I don't know if I have the right gasket, but it came with about 3 or 4 different style Zenith carb gaskets. So I'm hoping I have the right one. If we need to pull the carburetor off and clean it out, we can, and hopefully we have a gasket for it. So I think that gets us caught up on where we are. I do have the intake tube for it, for the oil bath air cleaner. So on the list of things after we get this thing running well is to connect that back up and service the oil bath air cleaner. It is full of coolant. I made sure to check that. I wanted to make sure it didn't get filled with water and froze and cracked. So I think we're good there. So let's I'll set up some time lapse. I'm gonna get my little shallow pan and throw under here just in case it decides it does still have some fluid in it. We can try to catch that, and we'll get this changed out, get some fluid in it, and see if we can get it started up. Alright, we're pretty filthy. I could not get this slid up any further, and it's up there enough to clamp it and a little extra on both ends. So the piece of hose I cut to fit slipped on all the way. I just trimmed off, you know, 3 inches of it and put it on shorter. And our clamps that came with the hose are too small. You can't, I don't know why they included those, because this is 1 inch outside diameter. It's 1 inch hose, so I mean it slips on there, and maybe it expands it out a little bit, but whatever. I mean, you cannot clamp those clamps down. They won't slip on there unless you take the bolt completely off and open them up, and then you can't close them enough to get the bolt back in it. So we just threw the original hose clamps back on there. They're in good shape. Hopefully they seal up and work well enough for this. I think they will. But yeah, I'll give them one little, since the hose has had a chance to settle. So there's our short little suction hydraulic hose. Use hose intended for the application. And this one, it's got to be radiator hose. I threw it over and it attracted grass, but I think it's been weeping. It is so spongy. It feels like, I don't know, Stretch Armstrong or something. It is mushy, and so I think it's been weeping. There was more hydraulic fluid in it than I thought, so I'm glad I grabbed my shallow pan. It did not overflow, so that's good. Now that that's done, I'm gonna throw some hydraulic fluid in it real quick and then clean the points. Well, what do y'all think? Should we clean the points or should we just go for it? Maybe we just go for it. I mean, maybe it was flooded. We got a hot battery. We'll just see what it does, and then if it won't start, we will start diagnosing whether it's fuel or spark. Let's do that. Our new suction hose doesn't appear to be leaking. We've got about 2 gallons of hydraulic fluid. Looking at the specs, it looks like it holds about 2.5 gallons. So we'll leave it at that for right now till we figure out where all of our leaks are. So let's see if it'll start. We're gonna try a full choke. It's got one of a neutral or a starter switch, kind of like a Mercedes, like my W123, where once you crank and you go back to on position, you can't crank again until you turn it to off. Alright, let's unchoke it and spray some carb cleaner. This, or brake clean, is acting like it did on the trailer. So I'm wondering if we don't have spark. Oh, we have spark. Let's choke it. Maybe let's choke. think I have a spark checker. Let me grab it, and we'll just put it in line. We can leave it in line. We can see if it's sparking, if we end up losing spark. Let me grab that. Bring y'all closer so you can see spark. We're going to pull number 1 off and place this guy on there. And see if we've got spark. Looks like we have consistent spark. You may just not like the brake cleaner. Maybe it is flooded. It just dumped a bunch of fuel out, so maybe it is flooded. Maybe that's the issue with the carburetor. It's flooding out, and the reason we're not running is because it's flooded. So it's pretty easy to get the carburetor off. I'm just going to pull it off, and we'll see what we can find. I think that's our best option here. Alright, so we've got this disassembled as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to take the needle and seat out. I sprayed some brake cleaner in there, put the needle in there, and blew through there, and it's sealing. So I think we're okay there. I think it was just trashed up, and we've got it clean now. It's hard to tell now because we've sprayed carb cleaner in here, but if you look at the time lapse when we dumped the carburetor out, you can see, I think it was in this corner, water. It was a clear spot and yellow fuel, and that was water. So we've got water in our fuel tank. I don't know that I can get the fuel strainer out, and I might try to get it out, but if I can't get it out, I'm gonna hook a hose up to the tank, to the where the fuel pump hooks up. And I think I've got a little electric pump here, and I think I'm gonna try to pump out all the fuel. It's old, it's got water in it. Let's pump it out, and then we will put some fresh in it. We'll get as much out of as we can. I'll look and see if it has a drain, but I kind of doubt that it does. But if it does, we'll just drain it. But I don't know. If you're going to be doing carburetors very much, get yourself a torch tip cleaner. I've had these for a while. They work great for cleaning jets out in carburetors, and I'll put a link in the description to one, but they work great. So I don't like putting, I need really a really fine mesh basket for my ultrasonic cleaner. I've got it warmed up, and we're going to run the body of the carb through it, probably this and the float and probably this, and that's probably it. These other parts I've cleaned up with some carb cleaner and the torch tip cleaner, and they're just too small for my basket. So I really need a small mesh basket I can put them in, but like I said, I don't have one, so we will just not put them in. Well, I think I have a small magnetic tray could just set in there. These are not magnetic, but as long as we don't get tippy with our ultrasonic cleaner, I think they would stay in that tray. Worst case scenario, you know, we're gonna have to dig around in the ultrasonic cleaner for them. We might as well. I think it's not gonna hurt them as long as we don't lose them. So we'll put those in, and might as well put the screws in too. Not putting that in, no reason to do that and risk losing it, I guess. But we're gonna get all these other parts in there and run it a cycle and get it all cleaned up. This bowl, it's pretty grungy. We could scrub at it, but we might as well just throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner. It'd be quicker and easier. All right, there is a drain, and look at all that water. The first stuff that came out, it was straight water. Of course, water settles to the bottom, but we're draining it. Unfortunately, this is the only pan I can get under here, but I think we're about to put the set screw back in, pull this out, drain it into a can, and then start over again. I don't want to get this thing too full and not be able to get it out without spilling it. I did have to poke up through the hole. It, you know, was plugged up. I'm almost wondering if this tank has been coated, because it looks really good. I mean, aside from water in it, there's no rust. There's no rust color to it. I find that hard to believe that it would not be rusty. So it may have been coated at some point, and maybe, you know, what I had to poke through was that coating, because it's surprisingly looks really good. And this pan wasn't the cleanest, so all that stuff is just stuff that was in the pan already. This is what I used for the hydraulic fluid, but it's also had, I think that's actually some leaves that have blown into it and stuck to it since it had oil on it. So let me throw the plug back in it and drain this out, and we'll do it again. Carburetor's running through the ultrasonic cleaner. I need to go get some fuel, and then I guess we'll continue this later. Either that's ethanol that's turned in, that's had water, or our fuel cap, it just is not sealing. There's no rubber on this cap anymore, so it wouldn't take much for rain to flow in and cause that to leak. So yeah, that's probably what's happened. One of the two, either ethanol turned into water, or it's somehow run through here and gotten in. All right, the ultrasonic cleaner just does such an amazing job at cleaning carburetors. Now, we've got just a little bit of sediment down on the bottom of this one. We will scrape that out and use some carb cleaner on it, but I probably should have scraped that around before I threw it in there. But pretty good job. And I have a small little measuring cup, and I just threw a little measuring cup with the handle on it. I just filled it up with my fluid out of an ultrasonic cleaner and dropped all those small parts in it, and then just hooked it on my basket and had all these small parts in it. So that worked out well. So those got run through as well, and you can see how pretty shiny now. I will just blow the liquid out and make sure I can see through them and assemble everything. But it looks good, and I think we're just going to go back with this old gasket. It's pretty rough, but I think it'll be all right. Yeah, I've got one that's close. But it's just the holes are slightly off on it. See, I think it's supposed to be it, but and we could probably make that work, but I don't know. I think this one's good enough to run. So, yeah, we're gonna run this one. I feel better about just reusing it. So, all right, I'm gonna set up time lapse. And while the ultrasonic cleaner was going, I went and picked up some ethanol-free fuel. We're gonna run ethanol-free in this because it may sit for weeks at a time, and I don't want, you know, ethanol going bad in it. And that'll be better for, you know, our fuel system anyway. You know, the diaphragm and the fuel pump. Ethanol is just hard on them, and so we've got a tank that looks to be pretty decent. Let's not ruin that with ethanol. All right, we got it all hooked up. We're gonna have to redo some of this fuel line routing, maybe put a longer piece on it, but for now we can use it. I cranked it over off camera and pumped till we were spitting out clean fuel. You can see there's some water down in that. So we're now pumping clean ethanol-free fuel. Put a few gallons in it. Before I put the plug in, I put just a splash in and let it kind of rinse the tank and run out. So that should get us as clean as we can get without pulling the tank. It's going to take a little bit to pump fuel up the carburetor. Pressure gauge says 20 pounds. do some, two things. One, I may not have put enough fuel in it. Two, we may need to do some adjusting on the carburetor. And three, I don't know what they've got set up for governor, but it is, something is not right. There's no throttle. I don't know if these springs are too large or if the linkage is messed up. I don't know, but we get nothing really for throttle. We lost spark, so unless there's something wrong with my tester there. Now, just looking at the setup here, I'm not seeing a ballast resistor. I have no idea. Our coil is not hot, but I'm not seeing. We may need to kind of go through this ignition system. We got spark again. That gauge is right. It's pretty low on oil pressure. I mean, it's not zero, but it's close to it. Yeah, I don't. We got a couple issues. Let me bring you on close and I'll show you one issue. Yeah, we'll fix that because that may help it run a little better. So if you look, see how that's wet right there? That's leaking. I don't know if this is loose or if it's missing a crush washer. I'm not real sure. So we're gonna pull that plug out and take a look at it, but it's leaking compression around that plug. So we'll fix that. That's not good. And I just don't know what jankiness is going on with this governor setup. And our carburetor, this thing just doesn't want to rev. I'm not sure what's going on. We can mess with our adjustments here. Fairly certain this is idle, and then we've got high speed. We may just need to mess with the high speed adjustment. Pulling that spring off seems to help a little bit, but this thing pulls it open, you know, that looks correct, but it doesn't make sense to me because it's pulling it more throttle, you know. To me, that would be, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. That it seems like, why would you have it pulling the throttle open? But it looks like it's supposed to be that way. I mean, it's got a custom little adjustable bracket. Maybe it's set too stiff. I don't know, but something's just not quite right here. But let's address that first. And yeah, I don't necessarily see, I think if that was our cylinder, we got quite a bit of fluid under there, but we did a pretty good spray when we did this guy. So yeah, that oil's pretty thin. I think we need to change this oil. Yeah, I don't want to, that's really thin. I don't know if it doesn't smell like fuel, but I don't think I want to run it anymore with that oil in it. And then the other thing, it's not making sense to me. I don't think our oil filter's hooked up. So it's got a line that goes over to there, and I mean that's good, but and it is a bypass oil filter, but there's no other line hooking up to it. And if I check the bottom, there is a open fitting in the bottom. Now that doesn't make sense to me because one side of this is still hooked up. So is that the return side? It would almost have to be. And the other side is just not hooked up. And I'm guessing if we come look over here, that would be that guy, maybe. You can see where it tees to the oil pressure gauge, but I don't know what. It's definitely had something disconnected there. So I don't think our oil filter's hooked up. So I think we will just drain what we can out of it. I don't know if I can get a pan. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but we're gonna have to try to drain it. I had an idea of trying to get a tube down through here, but that's not going to let us get down to the bottom of the pan. So yeah, but I don't like it, and I don't want to hurt it. And that fuel pump could be leaking into the crankcase. I don't know, but that oil is really thin. So let me see what's going on here, and then let me see what I can do to try to figure out how to drain this thing. I may have to try to block it up, and I'm not sure how we're going to be able to do that. But ideally our tilt cylinders would work, and we could block up under here, tilt it and let it pick the front up, block it, put an extra block under there, and just keep that process going and get it up. But we can't use tilt, so we're gonna need to do something about that eventually, but I don't think we're gonna get to that point today. Well, as I'm editing this, I've come to realize this video is very long, and so unfortunately we're gonna have to end this one here. A lot of y'all will watch an hour-plus long video, but the majority will not, so we're gonna split this one in half. We will pick back up in the next video on trying to get this Clark forklift running better, doing an oil change, and probably a few other little things. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.